Alright, hello. So today I'm going to explain team building 101 and mainly based on two parts, which are going to be the FIRO cycle and the main aspects of team building planning for chairpersons. So first of all, I'm going to introduce to you the idea that I will explain further, but I need you guys to bear this in mind throughout the whole process so that you understand really my idea of team building. So I'm going to tell you, and this is the image that you should get, is that team building is like a roller coaster ride. So what you need to do is, as chairpersons, understand that you are the owners of the roller coaster and that your delegates are going to be the visitors of the theme park and are going to be the ones that are going to enjoy or maybe not enjoy your roller coaster ride. So let me start. So the FIRO cycle is based on 5 different parts. So it's mainly based on 3 people that are going to participate and then 2 stages, 2 really important stages. Alright, so first of all we've got the I, then we would move on. So we will move on from one stage to the next one. We move from I to U, then to honeymoon, conflict phase, and then we move on to the we, and then we move on to the end phase. Great. So I'm going to describe each of the phases and put some examples of the different games that you should be expecting to plan, or also to relate to some of your previous experiences. Maybe you will see now from the point of view of a chairperson what each stage means. Alright, so first of all, the I phase. So the I phase mainly focuses on the question from the individual point of view. So who am I? So this who am I is mainly based on the idea that the individual that participates in the committee needs to introduce her or himself. So during this phase, we are just introducing the basic aspects of ourselves. So what's our name, what do we do for a living, and like maybe where we're from. But this is just used for us to create a picture, a really basic, let's say, ID picture of the person that we are talking to. So what we're saying through name games, what we're doing is we're saying, hello, my name is Iggy, and I study economics, for example, and I live in Spain, for example, all right? So now, once I've introduced myself, the person that is in front of me is going to say, oh, okay, so this guy, the guy that I'm just like seeing, his name is Iggy, he comes from Spain, and he has studied economics. All right, good, fair enough. So no further explanation, but I'm just allocating an image to a name, easy peasy. So I know that that guy is Iggy, and that's it, and that's all I need for now. So during this phase, I'm going to not only introduce myself, obviously, but play, as I said, some name games. These name games could be, they're endless games, but a really typical one we could say would be playing with a tennis ball, and we just throw it to someone else, and this person needs to say the name of the person from whom they received the ball. All right, so it seems pretty straightforward, and it's just this like kind of easy first games in order to know each other fairly good. I mean, just for the basics. Then we would move on to the U. So this moving on to the U is, all right, I mean, I could summarize it in, so I know you, I know what's your name, but I mean, what do you like doing? I need to know a little bit more about your personality, because I want to know where can I agree with you, or where can we find this point of consensus further in the process. So normally what we do is, in the U phase, we do complex name games, and we do icebreakers. So from now we can say that from the I phase, we just know each other formally, and we just know, all right, so Tata, this is you, okay, good. But here, what we want to do is break this formal boundary, or this sort of like glass wall that we have between each other, and we want to create a really informal and easygoing relationship. So what we use is complex name games. I mean, by complex name games, I mean those that are more of like getting to know each other. So for example, there's the typical one of like, I'm blindfolded and I've got my mate over here, and we're going for a walk, and we're talking about each other, oh, how interesting it is that you like flowers, and and we tell about like each other's lives and so on, and then we like to introduce the other person to the rest of the group. So here we get really strong bonds between people, and that's exactly what we need. However, we also want to break this kind of like speaking kind of boundary, and also learn not only from the verbal communication that we're creating by talking to each other, but we also want to understand the non-verbal communication, which is something greatly important throughout the team building and the committee work process. So for that, we're going to play some icebreakers. They're going to push ourselves a little bit to the limit in terms of physically. This is the typical situation for you chairpersons where your delegates might feel a little bit awkward. It's fine. You need to break those boundaries. You need to make them feel a little bit awkward for them to feel a little bit comfortable. So let me give you this image as well that I will explain furthermore in the next process, and that is that it's all right if we take a step back in order to take 2 steps forward. All right. So we're going to play a little bit of like touchy icebreakers. Icebreakers that could require holding people, or like touching, like rubbing each other, and that's perfectly fine. But what we're trying to do, obviously, by no means we want to be offensive to the other person. We always want them to feel comfortable, but we want to try to make them feel really comfortable with us, and it's really important that everybody understands that we're all in the same boat and that we're all learning from each other and so on. Okay, so this is the you phase, and now we need to move to the we. So with these easy icebreakers from the you, you're going to leave everybody like, whoa, we know each other so well, this is so great. I mean, ooh, this person over here, he's really interesting, he likes the same kind of music. Ooh, this seems like, wow, like everybody seems so cool, and we're going to be such a great team. Well, you might not. What we need to do is we want to break this kind of like spoiler alert of like, you might not be a good group, and we want to make sure that everything works out well. How do we do this? We do this through the process of the honeymoon and the conflict phases. So the honeymoon phase is mainly based on what I was saying before. So we finish the you phase, woo, everything's going great, everybody's like enjoying, having a great time. Whoa, like this game seemed really easy. I think this session's gonna be easy peasy lemon squeezy. Bah, this is my place. So what we want to do now is we want to create some sort of conflict, and it's fine if we do so. So in the honeymoon phase, as I said, we may prolong these icebreakers and complex name games, and we are going to introduce really easy problem solvers, okay? So we're going to introduce some really easy problem solvers during the honeymoon phase. So some games that will require a little bit of consensus, an agreement and so on, but which are mainly based on the spark of a really easy idea to solve the game. Such problem solvers will make everybody happy again, so we will still be in that honeymoon phase, but however, we need to take a really big step forward. What's going to be the step forward? Moving from the honeymoon phase to the conflict phase. And what do? We move on into complex problem solvers. So these complex problem solvers, what they're going to make them is make them feel really desperate. And we're going to play 3, 4, 5 games, whatever we have time for. And these games are going to be difficult to solve for the first time, because they're not going to understand what other people really mean and so on and so on. So the idea from these complex problem solvers is that they become really, really weak as a team. And you need, as a chairperson, you need to make them feel that they're not understanding the point, and they are not communicating with each other, and that they're really weak as a team and that they need to work a lot further. So you're telling them, all right, take 2 steps forward as a team. I mean, you're not as good as you expected, but you need to work further. And then what you're going to force is greater communication between them. So you're allowing for consensus, agreement, and so on. And you're going to move from the individual intelligence that you were requiring from the easy problem solvers. So a person that just said like, boom, all right, I've got the idea. This is how you solve it, and it's fine. And in the complex problem solvers, you're going to create the social or group, we could call it as well, social or group intelligence. In this social or group intelligence, you're going to require the whole team to agree and the whole team to come up with an idea. So, for example, these complex problem solvers are going to be sometimes a little bit sticky. And what do I mean by sticky? They're going to require a lot of giving and pulling and bearing and so on. So we're going to be dealing with sometimes ethical or moral dilemmas, all right? And sometimes with some technical games. For example, an example of an ethical or moral problem. I mean, obviously we can use the example of Abigail, but it's a more complex example. But we are going to use the Noah's Ark game. So we're going to tell the delegates to choose an animal, each of them, and then we're going to tell them, all right, in 2 minutes, I need I need all of you to kick out one of the animals, because we need to kick them out of the boat, because not everybody's going to survive until the end when they decide which is the animal that is going to survive on Earth. So this ethical moral makes them think a little bit strategically of, maybe I should have chosen another thing, maybe I should have thought against what I thought, and maybe I should agree furthermore with others and give reasons for agreement. So this part's pretty fine. I mean, it seems that we're dealing with some problems, but at the end, if we all agree, we can reach a good end of the conflict phase. So this seems pretty fine. I mean, the idea here is that you're going to pull everybody, as I said before, you're going to pull them 2 or 3 steps back, but at the end, they'll think, they'll prepare themselves, and then they will push themselves further for 5 or 6 steps, all right? So it's really important that during the conflict phase, and here comes my previous idea of the roller coaster, you bring them up, you bring them down, you bring them up, you bring them down, until there's a really smooth and sort of balanced growth path, as we say. Okay, so at the end we're going to deal with steady and stable growth of the team. Then we're going to move from this conflict phase to the we phase. So after creating this sort of intelligence boundaries and breaking them with the complex problem solvers, we're going to also take them a step forward, and we're going to play the we phase. And the we phase is going to be mainly based on strategic games. So now that we know that they can agree between each other, we're going to push them towards the end of the conflict phase into the we phase, which is going to be games that require a plan, and that you might fail, but you've already understood that the team is what really matters, and if we agree all as a team, we will reach a successful end. So these strategic games can be endless. For example, it could be the spider web. So we've got ropes all over the place, and we want to pass people from one side to the other side. So we're going to understand that we need some sort of group strategy, and if we do it just poof at random, it will not work. So we're going to do these strategic games, as I said. Nevertheless, these strategic games are going to bring the team down when they fail, but it's fine because the fall will not be as low as it was before. So these strategic games will allow for them to, once they reach the end of the game, because Alright, so something that I need to explain is that the honeymoon phase and the we phase, the difference is that normally in the conflict phase, it's one individual that tends to win thanks to a group strategy. And then when we move to the we, these strategic games are going to make the whole group win for, thanks to, a group idea. So these strategic games, for example, as I said, the spider web, will make the whole team cross the spider web, and they will all learn that thanks to each other, they've reached some sort of they've reached success. And then finally we will reach the end phase, and the end phase is really, really important because it can be used not only for team building but for the development of the delegates inside the committee throughout the session. So the end phase is that part where we need to be really, really happy with what we've done, and really, really sure that the team understands itself very well, and that we don't need any further team building throughout the whole session, and that we already understand each other. So the end phase needs to really leave us in that point of ecstasy after all the uncertainty that we felt throughout the whole team building process. But after this uncertainty, we need to leave the team in a really upward position. So the team needs to understand that they are going really optimistically, they're going in a really positive way. However, we need to understand that if we require, after some days, we require a little bit of team building in order to ensure that the end phase is complete and that we don't need anything of this after it, we might as well, we can do it, and it's perfectly fine because it will ensure that committee work and GA will work smoothly. What I meant before by the end phase towards the session is that we need to understand that the session after GA will be over, and I'm not going to need anything from the session because I already learned everything that I needed, and I can teach this learning in another session. So the end phase is really, really important for this. So as I said before, I'm going to tell you the basics, the relationship that I had between this basic team building approach with the roller coaster, and I'm going to paint this roller coaster ride. So first, throughout the I and the U phase, we're going to say that the roller coaster ride just goes like really smooth, really smooth, really smooth, until some point, and it goes really well. No easy, it's a pretty easy, like kids kind of roller coaster. You're getting a little bit more comfortable, it's going fine. Then we go to the honeymoon phase, and once we're entering the honeymoon phase, we're going up. We're going up, we're going up, we're going up, because the honeymoon phase has left us in a really we're really happy, let's say. So after this honeymoon phase, we're going to enter the conflict phase. And the conflict phase, as I said, will have huge ups and downs, but will always have to leave us really up. So this will require going up and going down, and then some loopings around. Alright? So it's a pretty tough one, but then we're going to have the we phase, where we've already established ourselves as a team, but we just need to cover the whole group idea. We're moving on from the individual side to the more social and group side. So in the we will already have some ups and downs if the team does not work properly, but eventually we will reach this kind of agreement and we will understand the dynamics of the group, so that by the end phase we will always go up. So this is more or less how the roller coaster of team building looks. As I said, we will go steadily and like easy going from the IU phase, honeymoon, conflict, and then we will sort of like mess it up. But at the end, it's really important that towards committee work, we are in a really high pace. Something really important that I should mention here is the idea of roles. It is really important that throughout the session, the roles in the committee are well defined. So everybody has what we call social awareness. So we understand who we are and who we are inside the team. And that is really, really important. So during the I and the U phase, we will not establish heavy roles. We will not really know what the roles will be. But towards the conflict and the we will understand what kind of roles do we have. So from here to here, we will work on the roles. The roles can be many different, many of them, and they're really different. That's what I mean. So the roles, you've seen them throughout your life, and maybe when you are eating with some friends, you already know the roles of your friends, because there's obviously one that talks more, one that is a little bit more bossy, one that is always silent, one that is really conscious about like something in particular, and one that keeps you together all the time. So these kind of roles that we have are going to be used throughout committee work and team building as well, because we're going to understand each of the members of our team and what role they play inside our committee. So the process of roles is going to be really important. All right. So now moving on to the team building planning, I'm just going to give you some hints on how to plan. All right. So let me erase this and I'll tell you now. Alright, so for team building planning, there's 3 important parts that you should know, which can be adapted to any session that you attend, even if it's a regional session with short periods of team building, and also when it is an international session with really long periods of team building. So first of all, you need to have a plan A. Second of all, you need to have a plan B, and I will explain further. And third of all, you need to create bridges. Okay, so you need to create bridges, as I said. So plan A would be, alright, so let's imagine I've got 9 hours of team building, and I'm going to plan 9 to 9:30. I'm going to play then I'm going to play at 9:30. I'm going to play this other game till 10:30, and So we've got a really refined scheme of what we're going to do throughout the whole day. However, and this is something really important, that in life we will never have the time we expect, and all plans will always go wrong to some extent. However, we can learn from this. So here comes our plan B. So our plan B is not going to have any kind of like time sequence. However, we're going to write all of the games that we would like to play in the best situation possible and in the order that we want them. And however, we will mark those ones that are really important. So those games that I need to play them because I need to complete the you phase, for example, or I need to complete the we phase. And thanks to this game, I will sort of like wrap up a phase or introduce it to some extent. So let me summarize a little bit now again. So plan A will be a really precise one. Plan B will be, all right, this is all of the games that I would like to play. However, at the same time, it's really important that not only the games that you want to play, but you also should think of, and here comes the plan B part, some alternatives. So, for example, and this is something that you need to be prepared, because it might happen and you need to have a backup plan, because you don't want to be fucked up during your team building. So these alternatives, what are they? So imagine, for example, that we want to play a game that requires balloons and apples. And for some reason, the organizing team was not able to buy apples because the demand for apples went up, and we're not able to buy apples. So we need to have an alternative to the game of the apples and the balloons, and we need to think, what could we play as a different game in order to substitute that part of the team building process that we want. So that is really important. Also think of alternatives, and try to think also of alternatives, as I said, that require no material or the least possible. Okay? In that way, we will help the organizing team throughout the whole process, and we will help them throughout the whole organizing of the session. And then here comes the second really important part, and it's the bridges. Something that tends to happen to chairpersons throughout team building is that they jump from the I to the U phase, from the U to the conflict, from the conflict to the we, and from the we to the end. Just really quickly, they just jump. But what we need to do is we need to make connections between phases. This is really important so that delegates don't feel confused when you jump from a really, let's say, a really easy name game to suddenly a really complex problem solver. So you need to scale it up a little bit, add some level and add some complex stuff, but you need to do it really slowly. And that is really important. You need to have games which act as bridges from one phase to the other. Okay? So, for example, let me put an example. If we want to jump from the I phase to the U phase, a good game to play would be, for example, let's say Ninja. Because Ninja requires names and also requires some physical movement. So, in Ninja, there's a point when we are already like this, that we can pass the ninja power, we can pass it to another of our mates in the committee. So what we go and we say, and we move and we say Peter, and that person, Peter, will have the power now. So we're bridging this important part of the I phase of knowing the names of each other and sort of like having an image to the U phase. So we are understanding that now we need to get in touch a little bit and create these bonds. Seems really stupid, but saying some other person's name also makes them feel really comfortable about what they're doing. So it's really important that you do bridges. All right. So now I'll pass on to a more specific Malmo Regional Session 2017 part. So if you're not from Malmo Regional Session 2017, you can leave this video because it's going to be part for for them. So you won't like this, but well. So this is going to be your task. Let me erase this. All right. So the main task is we're going to have two tasks. One is going to be related to the chairs team as a whole, and one is going to be related to your committee. Okay. So so the first chairs team one is going to be, we're going to create a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet that is going to be uploaded, and we'll have different tabs. And we will have one for the I, one for the U, one for the we, conflict, and you're going to introduce games that you know that are going to be useful for the rest of the team with the I phase or the U phase. This, in the end, what we're going to do is we're going to create a common team building game space where in case of an emergency you can check what other games you can use and also learn more games that you didn't know from your previous sessions. So here we're going to have this database of team building games that are going to be interesting and also can be useful for inspiration for the next step. So for your committee, what we are as the board we're going to ask you is you have to plan your team building day. If you check on the officials info booklet that was sent just like a week ago, you will check that there you can have more or less an approximate timetable and schedule of what we will be doing throughout the session. So you're going to take that team building day and you're going to take into consideration this timetable, and you're going to set up a plan. This plan has to have plan A, so you're going to be really precise for a second. Plan B, so you're going to think of the alternatives and what games are really necessary for your process. And you're going to think of bridges. So you're going to think which are the games that are going to be useful to connect one phase with the other one. All right? and that would be it. And once you're done with this project, so the committee part, you're going to do it inside your committee. So if you're one chairperson in your committee, you obviously will do it on your own, and if you're two chairpersons, you will do it together. And once you're done, you will send it to your buddy groups, and obviously as you're allocated a different buddy between chairs, you will send it to both of your buddies, so we can compare them and discuss them furthermore. So once you're done, you send it to us, okay? So in case you have any questions regarding this, I hope you ask them to us, and hopefully this module was easy for you guys, and especially I would really appreciate if we do this chairs theme and this committee task like shortly. But it's also really important that even if the task is over, the chairs theme spreadsheet is always good to be filled up if we learn more games, because we will really use them throughout the session to create further inspiration for games. Okay, so this will be it, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you lasted for, I don't know how many minutes this thing lasted, but I hope you really enjoyed it. And so, alright, just hit us up with any questions that you may have, and see you soon in Malmö. See ya. Bye.